Welcome to, I believe this is like the 20th behind the screen episode. Today's stream, video, whatever you want to call it, will be focused on villain creation, specifically the stat block for the next boss for my players to encounter. Last session was made up almost entirely of a really, from my end, a powerful emotional scene that I didn't expect to be as emotionally charged as it turned out to be, so that was cool. With the players finding the cave with the car heads in it, and the insane mirror person within. And they spent pretty much the entire 2-hour session either talking to the car heads or talking to the mirror person, and they found the ritual. They took the spell book in the end. They killed the mirror person, and kind of, I played her as she was insane in that she was unaware, they were insane in that they were unaware of their nature, and of the fact that they weren't the person they thought they were, broken up by occasional psychotic breaks as they messed with the spell book. And then they eventually just killed her and persuaded the Kharas on guard that they weren't tainted by the perverse magic that, created her, and left the cave. And then they got to the headless statue, and after 2 false starts, solved that riddle with the female head. So they have the ice cold heart of a dryad, and have gained entry to Javik's estate. However, because it was the female head and not the male head, it was a very loud, very obvious entry. Which brings us up to today. I'm going to be designing, hopefully with your help, the 2 stat blocks for the creatures in the boss encounter. I've got the map already, as I've mentioned before. It is the map of Javik's estate from when they investigated it in the city. It is the same map, same floor plan, I should say. And Javik's wife, daughters, I should say, will be handled by NPC blocks, stat blocks, probably the noble ones. But they aren't actually his wife and daughters. They're more mirror people. So if I don't think I'll need any combat application for them, but I'll handle that with NPC stat blocks if it becomes appropriate, probably, or something that I make up off the top of my head, which is more likely. But for today, I want to create Javik's stat block, and the stat block for something I'm calling Reflections of Power, which I'll get into depending on how long it takes to create Javik's. So all you can see is obviously is 3. I've gone for kind of my usual mood board approach for creating these things. So Javik, I want to be unpredictable, dangerous, and zealous. And then the Reflections of Power are blank, mirrors, and flexible, because the idea I have with these is that they will reflect the party member who is closest to them when they are created, and I'll get into that when we get to their stat block. But for now, hopefully I've set this scene up correctly. So if I go to this one and to the editor and blank that out. Nope, the scene is not set up correctly for some reason. Why is it not showing? It should be showing. Why are you not showing? Huh. So what I'll do is I'll save this. Close the program. I set this up earlier and it worked fine. So I don't know what's going... Oh, I know what might have happened actually. That's annoying. But I'm not going to have to mess around with potentially showing you my desktop. So there's that. This time. Incidentally, never do that. The effort it took to edit the video and then the actual edit went wrong. So I just ended up blur. Oh, I never actually blurred the individual video files. God damn it. Oh well, I guess that's up on YouTube for everyone to see. I'll have to do that and see if I can change the videos. Not that there's anything revealing. Put my email address, god damn it. There we go. This is what you should have been able to see. Load. Okay, so just trying to figure the delays. Okay, so this is a free program just called D&D Monster Maker. On the left, you've got where you actually input the values, and on the right is a preview screen. You can select what stat block you want to use. So this is Valorix. It's the kind of more traditional one, and then there's other ones. Like you can have a grayscale one or futuristic if you want. I find it difficult to read. Reddit's is just plain text. Nope. Might not be able to use these bottom three. No. But I usually just stick it on Valorix because it's a nice colour scheme. It is in fact Duggum's and Daggum's Celtic Beast. I've already entered some values, as you can see. I've taken a stat block from a source book. I'm not going to say which. You can probably figure it out. And pre-entered armor class, hit points, which I increased, speed, ability scores, and all this stuff. And I primarily am not using the camera today because I'm going to be looking down at the book a lot to check the appropriate information. I've added, there's no provision here to add layer actions, so I'm just going to have to add them into the actions section and label them as layer. That's not how you spell initiative. That's annoying. Oh, no, edit. Save. There we go. And then if you preview, it just updates the preview. Yeah, I will be adding layer actions into here, and then it comes up with all the legendary action stuff pre-programmed. Most of this I haven't actually entered. You'll see as we go what it adds and what it automates for you. I can't find any way of italicizing spells in actions. There might be some like markup I can use, but I don't know about that. So, going back to the design principles for a moment, you'll notice Javik is, in theory, unpredictable, dangerous, and zealous. So, for unpredictable, I've given him the ability to face step as a legendary action, and I'm going to check the wording on the stat block in the source book so I can word it correctly for the abilities. There it is. Okay, so it's technically innate spellcasting. I don't think that's an option. That might be a problem. Add ability, spellcasting. Innate spellcasting. There we go. Warlock. It's an 11th level spellcaster. Innate spellcasting. Charisma. And we've got, so Misty Step, Mage Armor, Silent Image, Speak with Animals. See how well this works. So Misty Step, Mage Armor, Silent Image, and then 1 a day Charm Person. And then if I save and then preview, it should pop up here. Yep, here we go. So Pathfinder's chosen spellcasting ability Charisma because it's doing warlocky stuff. Yeah, so Javik Trantum. You'll notice it says Pathfinder's chosen. Originally, I did have that as Javik Trantum when I was testing this out, but it just says the Javik Trantums is the Javik Trantums has the. It just didn't. It sounded horrible when I was reading it, so I just changed it to Pathfinder's chosen for ease. So that covers that, and you can reorder these like this, in theory. There we go. You can reorder them to suit your stat block needs. So, go back to the book reference for the spellcasting stuff, and I'll get onto actions and what have you in a bit. If you have any ideas about how to make this guy unpredictable, zealous, or whatever the other one was, dangerous, please do let me know. Ooh, that's the wrong spell. Whoops. Edit. 1 a day. Conjure Fey. There we go. That spell. And then save. Otherwise, obviously, it doesn't save you changes. And then actual spellcasting. This is where I'm going to have to do a lot of typing, so I might miss things in chat. But if you want to post in chat, actually, why is that not working? Interesting. The green box to the right should be showing chat. Not that there's much chat happening, but it's not for some reason. Strange. That's all. Weird. I guess I'll have to look into that. I might just remove the chat box if it doesn't work properly. Anyway, so I need to go to this and then to edit and then to here. So it also has, I know the book has them all lowercase to begin with. I just prefer uppercase. And that. Hey, Kenny. That dog is adorable. For some reason, the chat box isn't working, so I guess I'll just... Oh, no, there it is. It's showing now for whatever reason. Okay. Randomly works now. Creation process is going slow because I am copying from the book. and obviously I have to make sure I don't make a typo and click the right things, but going well. I've got my guidelines for your benefit are that this creature, this Pathfinder's chosen, hopefully this doesn't break it, is unpredictable, dangerous, and zealous. So he's a fallen noble of the city who is technically a warlock, believes he's a cleric, of an archfey lord. And I'm trying my best to mix up the party's usual tactic of send the now three melee tanks in, and then just let the send one tank and 2 melee specialists in, and then let the ranged combatants do their job from the back. So there's going to be a lot of misty stepping for this encounter. But I'm hoping it's going to go fun. Going to go fun? What? Going to be fun. Everyone's favourite spell to both say and pronounce. To both say and spell, even. And the final one, obviously, Vicious Mockery. Because what warlock would not be complete without Vicious Mockery? Not that I need any of these spells, because he's got the ability to cast Misty Step as a legendary action and a magic weapon that it's primarily going to be using, but there we go. So, if I save that and just check that's all sorted, it is. Excellent. Edit. Okay, so we've got 3 I don't believe so off the top of my head, but I've added that to some custom enemies myself because I think it's cool, but I could be wrong. And then spell level, I guess we'll set them all to 5 just for simplicity's sake. Although some of them are at, well, like Charm Person, there's a first level spell. The main change I've made to this stat block, just for anyone who's curious, is I've upped the health so that they can stick around longer because it's quite a high damage output party, and I've dominate swapped out one of its disguise self at will power. Disguise self at will from innate spellcasting to Misty Step at will. Something for people who may not be as familiar with 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, and I imagine a fair number of other games that are primarily combat focused, or have a great emphasis placed on combat, I should say. If you're having a solo monster, as in the monster itself is designed to be a challenging encounter without support, they need a lot of health. It doesn't need Misty Step. I'll check other Warlock spells and add that in as appropriate. So it won't be in alphabetical order, but who cares? So it needs a lot more health, possibly higher AC in D&D's case. Otherwise, it goes down too quickly to be an interesting encounter and to be appropriately dangerous. And I don't need that reaction. So I will just check the Warlock spell list and pick an appropriate one to replace Misty Step. Oh, well, Hellish Rebuke's always good. Oh no, even better. Counterspell. That is a compelling reason to put Disguise Self back in, actually, Kenny. That is a good point. So the minions themselves will look like the player characters. So yeah, I'll save that and then go back to innate spellcasting and re-add Disguise Self. And then preview should reflect that. Where are the higher level spells? Because it has the spell slots. Is it this? I've never actually used this to build a spellcasting creature before. I don't generally use them. Weird. Huh. Okay. Darn. Because I can't. Change the. Right, I guess. Set all these to 1. And then just have to remember that it only has the 5 5th level spell slots. Okay, that's less than ideal. Will it look like in hirelings or PCs depending? Well, he's going to look like the PCs because the player characters have left it. Well, because the players have left it so long to actually go after him, he's managed to set up essentially the stuff that gives him the lair actions and the dungeon they've just gone through. So Charm Person is a 1st level spell. Oop, hit the back of the mic with the rulebook. Spell level 1. Charm Person. What was I saying? Yes, so he's had enough time to set all this stuff up to the extent that he has the dungeon and he has the okay, so can't spell the 3rd level lair actions. So prestidigitation covers the ghost sound aspect of that. Well, what I'm leaning towards. I mean, that's a really cool idea. Don't get me wrong. But because he's going to have 2 creatures which give the players disadvantage anyway. Oh, I like that. Like a Nightingale. I'll change Mistwell to the room is heavily obscured. So then he just knows which room people are in based on the sound. That's cool. What was I checking? Can't remember what I was checking. Yeah, it's just an illusion. Okay, so charm person. I know that Dimension Door's a 4th level spell. And then we've got Blink is not in the Warlock spell list. 3rd level. That's why I was getting really confused. Well, so this is a good point. The environment that the players will be fighting in is like a basement level, a series of small rooms with stone walls between them. So far, every kind of boss level has been a boss encounter, so to speak, has just been in a like a functionally an open square room with no weather, with bits of cover scattered around, and Dominate Beast, 4th level spell. I was looking for the wrong spell. But instead of the kind of metal tubes, could totally have it that the sound just echoes in an unpredictable manner for them. So they can't tell where it's coming from unless obviously they're in the room. But that's a 1st level spell. He knows which room, what sound equates to which room. So that's a cool idea. If that's what you meant. Anyway. I mean, your idea is cool. That's just my interpretation of it. Here's a 3rd level spell. Oh yeah, of course, these will be from the Archfey patron. That's why they're not on the wizard spell list. Well, it depends entirely on I did. Whoops. How long it takes them to get there, because they could just go straight there this session, or they could take a few sessions to explore the house and be better prepared. Phantasmal Force is a 2nd level spell. Well, each room already has a purpose. So there's a bathroom, because it's kind of a panic suite. So each room has a purpose. So kind of the bathroom would logically have water, maybe a thin layer of water over the floor. He's actually himself will be in a quote unquote treasure vault, so it could make the sound of coins clinking when they move, just like with the same idea. And then there's 3 bedrooms, so maybe leaves, feathers, that kind of thing. Because he's not, yeah, but it's all illusory, of course, because they've actually encountered his actual treasure vault and didn't take the money. Sleep is a 1st level spell. Seeming. I should clarify, they didn't take the money, but they took the magical items they found in a hidden chest. Oh my god, yeah, they are definitely all now made of chocolate. Fireball spell. The room suddenly smells delicious. Roll to resist drooling. No, 5th level. So seeming is fine. Sleep is 1st level. And then, as I say, I'm just going to have to remember that he actually only has the 3 5th level spell slots, but the stat block wouldn't let me do it any other way. Oh, I need to fix Eldritch Blast as well. Well, that's kind of obviously what's treasure to one person isn't treasure to everyone. So that's a great idea. It's something I definitely have been thinking about doing going forwards, especially because the big bad's Fae, so unpredictable, chaotic, obsessive about random stuff. Evil Maniac B and his love of cheese obviously was a memorable moment. It's like the wheel of cheese you can find in the vault in Dragon Age Inquisition. What was it? Warlock spellcasting. Edit. Because Eldritch Blast needs to be at 3d10. Oh yeah, of course. Because they could have a room of stuff that they've hoarded so that other people can't use it against them. Yeah, and that's consistency. What was I going to say? Yeah, so the vault itself is no longer a vault. It's more of his kind of where he goes to be crazy and to mourn the loss of his family and things like that. Well, not the loss of his family, but to plot vengeance against those who wronged him, i.e. the player characters. So that's all of those. I need to have 2 more lair actions. So this will be reflection pool and a reflection of power appears adjacent to a pool with at least 1 PC adjacent to it. And in case there are multiple PCs adjacent to a pool, I'll just randomly determine which one the reflection becomes. This looks horrible. Let's just do some tidying up. So the down below there, below there, below there. Legendary actions well at the bottom. And there. That's much better for my personal benefit. Everything seems to dropped frames, and again, I'm not doing anything visual apart from moving the cursor. So I guess to the other obvious thing to do as a layer action is to do kind of a minor heal, but I feel like that might unnecessarily pad the actually could do actually I'm just going to take a sip of my drink, sorry. Could do a over there thing where the layer makes the sound of someone moving or mimics one of the player characters. Yeah, I was probably going to do something like that, or kind of, if he destroys one of the reflections of power, he gets a heal from doing that, but then one of his minions is gone. I was thinking I might use that as a legendary action. I don't know why I'm waving it down here, but I guess you can see the cursor. So, but it's equally just a potion. I just don't want it to be he can just heal every 3 turns, because that just drags out the fight. This is one of the few occasions where the players will have to fight to the death anyway. Although I suppose most of the bosses they've encountered have been like that. But, oh. Thank you for choosing poorly. Rouge 2150. I appreciate it. And that's my follower goal met, so I'm going to have to change that for the next stream to get to 30. Yeah, I don't personally like it in video games, so I'm just adapting that philosophy to tabletop. Just, it's annoying. It adds hit points where they don't need hit points, especially as I've already upped his hit points to 90. And his first turn in combat will be casting Mage Armor, so that's a no-go. So what was I going to do? Oh yes, action. Hit caps. Lair. Oh no, it's hyphen. Echoed sound. One of the PCs calls out from a nearby room. Nearby room. Guess it'll be a... Well, his spell save DC is 14, so we'll go with DC 14. Wisdom... Oh no, it's the other way. Insight. Wisdom check to determine it is false. Where did that put it? Oh, at the bottom. Cool. So that should be added. So 3 layer actions. Excellent. That's, 3 layer actions that happen at initiative 20. So I'm going to be relying partly on my players not kind of metagaming, going, oh, well, obviously I didn't say that, and it's, initiative 20, but there we go. Obviously his main action is primarily going to be Eldritch Blast, or casting a different kind of spell. And a lot of these spells are debuffs anyway, so... I'm going to let them hear it, but then obviously insight is whether or not this is false, because they're not going to have time to investigate it. I'd love to, because none of them are high intelligence characters and their investigation scores are shockingly low. But I want them to hear it, because I still want them to be confused. And then if they believe it, obviously they then act on it. Does that make sense? I'm open to being persuaded otherwise, of course. Action. Okay, so Stormcaller. Type. Melee or ranged weapon attack. 2 hit. Yeah, that's the feeling I want to go for. So even if, because I imagine this happening after the reflections happen. Well, I don't. The idea here, apart from with spells like Phantasmal Force and Fear and what? Oh, Fear, so good. The idea isn't to affect their minds so much as to confuse and mislead to give him an edge. Yeah, sorry. Well, the insight or investigation check is primarily what you use to see through illusions. So it's kind of like if they want to, on their turn for free, or maybe it's a bonus action, they can make an insight, like a retroactive insight check to determine whether or not it was their comrade or if it was slightly off. We'll use well, if something like that happens, then that'll explain to the players that kind of you're hearing these conflicting things from two different places in this complex. How do you react? And they're not. So it'll be +6 to hit using a spellcasting modifier. Yeah, obviously it depends on the group. The group I play with, luckily, I don't have to force it over to full mechanics. They will take it as a role-playing thing. He's using it as a longsword, doing lightning damage. Uh, 5-foot reach, range, 2060. Did that work as I expected it to? Either ranged weapon attack +6 to hit, reach 5 feet, or range 2060, one creature 9. Yep. When thrown, use reaction to recall. Actually, that should be +7 and +5 to hit because it's a +1 weapon. Use reaction to recall, dealing 2d10 lightning damage to all creatures in a 5-foot line between you and Stormcaller. Good morning, Tangier. Good to see you. Kenny, to address your comment, my players know that I won't give them free wins. They know that they have to work for them in situations like this. God Creation went quite well, I feel. I've left it a few weeks to do other topics so that I can return to it with a relatively fresh mind, and obviously try and build up an audience to come and contribute to that aspect of it as well. Just trying to word this. Creatures may attempt in this instance, DC 14 dexterity save, taking half damage on a success. Does that fit properly? Of course it doesn't. Oh, of course it doesn't. Where did it? Did I click save? I thought I clicked save. I may not have clicked save. That might explain it. Actually, you know what? Even better. I'll just put that in the reactions. Add action, reaction, recall, all is in a 5-foot line between Stonecaller and Pathfinder's Chosen. Take 2d10 lightning damage. Let's type this all out again. Oh, DC 114. No one will get that. Dexterity saving throw. Just put dexterity save. Taking half damage on and I know this isn't the official wording. Yeah, DC 114, the god number. I know this isn't official wording, but it's enough for my purposes. And it stops the... There we go. All creatures in 5 foot limit between Stormclaw and Pathfinder is chosen to take 2d10 lightning damage. Creatures may attempt a DC 14 dexterity save, taking half damage on success. Yeah, this is all just obviously my shorthand. When I've got time, because I will release this probably on my website, I'll tidy it up in terms of language, just so that everyone's aware of things like that. Things I do create again on here will go up on my website for free after I've used them. I do it before, but my players might stumble across it by accident. Yeah, I'm waiting until after the adventure, but as I say, this encounter could happen tonight, or it could happen in a few weeks' time. So it will depend entirely upon then. But I will let people know, and I'll probably type up my thoughts on the encounter and any special rules I use during it, just to have that resource available to people, and then I'll mention it on the stream with a link. yeah, they take a long time to cover very short distances sometimes, and a short time to cover long distances. And yes, Celtic, that would be appropriate. Well, it's a hyperlink now, and it's in the chat box, so it's going on YouTube, so everyone can see your mistake. So that's the main reaction. Does it have Hellish Rebuke? No, so I don't need to add that. Got the 3 layer actions. Why is... There we go. Oh yeah, Stormcaller needs changing, because it's a +1 weapon. So add a +7 to... at a +7 to hit, he's going to be hitting most of the party most of the time. I've got, I think, 3 characters at AC 18 or higher. So that's still a, 8 in 20 chance if he uses the weapon. One of the legendary actions will probably be to make an attack with Stormcaller and recall it, or to use a spell anyway. So speaking of legendary actions, let's go and sort those out. So phase step, may cast Misty Step. Lightning Bringer. Make an attack with Stormcaller. And it was going to be Shatter, one of the Shatter Mirror. Destroy, Reflection of Power, and gain temporary hit points equal to, I'll say half its remaining hit points, but obviously depending on how well that goes at the table, I might lower that value. So those should all be down there. There we go. So we can Misty Step at the end of another creature's turn. It can make an attack with Stormcaller at the end of another creature's turn, and then use his reaction to summon it back. Or it can gain a minor heal, temporary hit point gain. And again, for people who've just joined, there are different other ways of presenting this information. If you play on Reddit, I guess you use this one. I prefer Valoric Stat Block. I'm going to save this before I forget. Sorry about the bong. The file name already exists, so obviously it, it tells you. So it's got it's got armor class. It's not terribly high, but should be okay. Hit points, so it should be able to weather at least 3 rounds of direct combat. And Misty Step does not trigger attacks of opportunity, so that's an important thing to note. He can get temporary hit points. And also, of course, if an encounter is taking a shorter amount of time than you want it to, there's nothing saying you can't just increase its hit points on the fly. Obviously, be sensible about doing it, but it's an option. I really wish that I didn't have to do it this way, but it's just the way the program is coded, programmed, what have you. So, saving throw bonuses. What do you mean, Kenny? Saving throw bonuses skills. I mean, to jump because it's a fake thing. Oh, yeah. Yeah, obviously, if he's supposed to be CR4. He's probably closer to CR5, actually, with the... legendary actions and stuff. So that will put some stuff up, I think. No, it's all good. It's good. It's fine now because yeah, with the legendary actions and things, and lair actions, is definitely. Why is it added them so many times? What? There's only the one. That's a cool idea. I've tried writing modules. If you spend any time on my website, you'll notice that, and it was just a lot of work and time involvement, and just doing it by myself at the time that I was writing it. It just didn't work for me. Yeah, so for DMG stuff, I generally just do classes. Why has it added them so many times? What is... Yes. Okay, that's weird. Let's try that again. So Pathfinder's chosen. See, this is why when I do homebrew stuff, I only write the one rulebook, and then just scale from there if I need more stuff. It was Mist Surge. Mist fills a room. A room. I can't even remember how I worded this. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Because you're putting that much effort in, obviously you're going to be writing that many books. Heavily obscured until initiative 20 on the next round. Shatter mirror. I realise that some of the wording I'm using is taken from other games, like destroy and stuff like that. But there we go. I know what it means in my head, and that's really all I need to know. No, we'll go with regain. Temporary hit points equal to half its remaining hit points. And so Stormcaller itself is a +1 weapon, deals lightning damage, and can appear as any weapon. So Javik's using it as a longsword, but it can be anything. That's better. Right. So PNG didn't work. Having a friend does help with writing stuff. Obviously, like collaborative creation, as I've said many times, is helpful. There was a way I did this last time, and I can't remember how I did it. I don't think it was saving it as a CSV. And the PNG for some reason just takes a screen cap of what's there. Oh, my voice is going. And now I can't minimize the window or move the window in any way. That's weird. That's not what should be happening at all. I think the program's crashed as well, which doesn't help. Yeah, the program's crashed on my desktop. That's annoying. Yeah, but I can't remember when I saved last. I don't think I saved it before I deleted and reapplied the legendary actions. It also takes a while to open. As far as I can tell, it's the most up-to-date version of the program. Kind of quickly click through the menus to get back to where I want to be. Oh, well. Now I see why they were all there. So they've all three abilities are there. Cool. Nope. I believe I've just deleted the Sylvan language from his brain. Whoops. Where's languages? Languages, there we go. And of course it deleted. Apparently this stat block is cursed. Right. Carefully do it. Really carefully do it. Last one. There we go. Please work. Nope. I think I found a bug in the program. That's incredibly annoying. 'Cause I can't use it like this. So it deleted Sylvan and didn't delete any of these. Well. I'm curious at the point at which it deletes Sylvan. So he's got... Oh, it doesn't have Sylvan here either. Maybe if I do this, maybe this will work? If I just save it after every one. So that's 6. Let's try deleting 2 at a time. At least it's a pleasant bong. Okay, that deleted 2. Oh, they're all back. Why? Why is this happening? Well, I don't have the time to figure that out, so let's just delete that. Save it again. So it's fine right now. I'm assuming that if I save it as a PNG, it will do the same thing, and it will just take a... So all it does is it takes a screenshot of this side of the screen. Okay, so now it's working as intended. Now it didn't take a screenshot that time. I've got the full stat block. Maybe it's... let's just try this. Phase step. Cast Misty Step. Lightning Bringer. Make an attack with Storm Caller. And then Shatter Reflection. Destroy. Reflection of Power. And regain hit points equal to half its current hit points. I guess thinking about it, creatures don't usually get temporary hit points. If I were making him as a player character, then I would probably... Oh yeah, because I didn't name it. Doesn't happen. Whoops. Just got it chosen. So I guess we're going to do all that again. Yeah, thinking if I were doing it as a player character, player characters can get temporary hit points, so I would totally use that as an option. But in this instance, it seems to make sense to not do that. And I think one of my player characters has Chilling Touch, which prevents hit point regeneration, which they can then use against him if they catch on to what he's doing. Make a single attack with Stormcaller. And then hopefully this works. If it doesn't, I'll just delete the whole thing and just kind of write them out on an index card. I use a lot of index cards. Incidentally, if you do run role-playing games and you don't use index cards, you owe it to yourself to invest in some. They are a very useful resource. You can also get like dry wipe versions, magnetic dry wipe versions if that's more your thing. If you want to be more sort of eco-friendly with it. I'm not sure about obviously index cards you can recycle, but I don't know about the manufacturing process behind dry wipe stuff. And hopefully for the last time, throw a reflection of power and regain hit points equal to half its current hit point total. There's no save. Nope. So now if I click PNG and then save it, oh, that worked. Oh, thank God. Thank the Pathfinder, I suppose. That worked as intended. So all the program does is it kind of exports a PNG with the chosen background style, chosen template style, sorry. And you can save it wherever you want to save it. My main question now is, do we make the Stormcaller action a multi-attack or not? If cultivating your stuff is infinity water and is studied around martial arts school, there's several techniques for regeneration. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like a lot of the time the rider kind of feels useless, so you have other, in D&D you have other spells that you tend to use, but then you come up against one creature that does have the ability to regain hit points. It's like, aha, I have the tool for this situation. What's his average damage? Yeah, I can make multi-attack and it's still within the parameters of the challenge rating. Where was that? Edit. Makes two attacks. Oh, yep, that's fine. With Stormcaller. That is very true. That is very, very true. What the heck? Oh, I know what I did wrong. It's just add action, multi-attack. I've got to stop using that side of the keyboard. It doesn't like it. Yeah, there we go. And then send multi-attack to the top. So innate spellcasting, actual spellcasting, multi-attack, makes 2 attacks with Stormcaller, and then there's the Stormcaller profile. The 3 layer actions at initiative 20. Actually, I could probably add action name, layer. Layer actions act on initiative 20. Let's check the wording of the book. Oh yeah, conservation of energy and stuff like that. I've never really understood the, unless you're in like an absurdly high magic setting, how Can't use the same effect two rounds in a row. That's the limit. How trolls, for example, can heal constantly. The same action may not be used 2 rounds in a row. And I don't need the rider about losing initiative ties, because I always rule that players go before any NPC anyway. So preview their actions. There we go. Because again, I can't actually put their actions into this template. So then save that as the PNG. Well, I mean, most of the time, knocking something's head off will kill it, so that makes sense. So that's cool. That's fine. What was I going to do? So that's that. And then if we go back to this. Well, yeah. So Ken's suggestion. For those who weren't here earlier, or who may be skipping through the YouTube thing to the end, uses distinctive sounds to differentiate rooms. So knows where PCs are, and also distracts PCs with sounds. That latter bit, maybe not so much, because they're going to have to be dealing with minions that look like them, and I'm probably going to have it that the mist doesn't apply to the reflections of power or Javik himself, because it's his lair and they're part of it. Just save that. So I'm going to be trying, obviously, to spring the reflections on them when they can't see what's happening. So that's pretty happy with that. If you have any questions so far about Javik, please do. Yeah, exactly. You'd be summoning things that can make advantage of the advantages you've created. If you have any questions about the Pathfinders chosen, please do let me know. As I said, when I've done with this encounter, I will tidy the language up. Oh, the spell save's gone up. That's annoying. Oh, I suppose it's because I set him to CR5. Well, it works like that, so hopefully... Yep, that's fine. Nothing broke. Although, as I say, probably is CR5. No, we'll leave him at CR4 for the slightly lower spell save DC. Yeah, I hope it's all saved properly as well. Why is it forgotten where I save things? Oh, I know why. So I've got a bit of time still, so I'll quickly run through the reflections of power and why I'm deciding to do with certain things with those. Just got to find the right folder to save these in. And then just check that's still working as intended. Still working as intended. Excellent. Yeah, I think with everything else that's going to be happening around the players, keeping those DCs quite low is okay, because he's got 2 things with him that give disadvantage to saving throws. So, although they won't be able to teleport, they will be messing around. He doesn't actually have any ray spells, I believe. He's got Eldritch Blast, which I guess he could ricochet. Although it does force damage, so I imagine it's more just it impacts on the surface and stops. Yeah, none of these are ray spells. They're all debuffs. For the most part. I mean, Phantasmal Force is a hallucination, and a few of these are just travel spells. But if it comes up, I will definitely think about it. So, save that one last time while it's working. Yeah, exactly. Things that do have ray spells, obviously, if it comes up, like Beholders, if they fight Beholder, definitely going to have mirrors. I'm having to be careful with magic items. I know obviously wands can just not recharge, but the player are pretty stocked as it is. And if he weren't a magic user, I'd probably give him the wand. But he can do 3 Eldritch Blast rays a turn because he's an 11th level spellcaster. So it doesn't really need a wand unless it's like a wand of fireball or a ray spell. But something to think about, definitely, if I have the time, if they take a long time to get to him. Something that I am a huge advocate for is obviously coming back to ideas after time has passed. I've been passing out gear, and yes, one, because I had cool ideas for gear and no real way of getting it to the players, but 2, because it's a low gold setting, and when they leave the city, they're not going to be making all that much gold to spend on magic items. So I'm kind of stacking them up at the beginning of the campaign so that then they've got the stuff they need to carry them through the rest of the campaign as kind of a way of handling that. So Reflections of Power should be a lot simpler. They're not going to be spellcasting in the slightest. They are, however, going to be vulnerable to... They're essentially mirrors. So they're going to be vulnerable to bludgeoning and thunder and force damage, and then resistant to all other forms of damage. So I'm going to have to lower their hit points accordingly. I forgot to click add. Whoops. Obviously, mirrors and reflections aren't totally like this. That's a great magic item, Kenny. I make useless magic items up all the time just for a laugh as well, so I totally know where you're coming from with that. There's, for instance, the Boots of Speed, which once you start moving, you move at 40 feet around, but you can't change direction or stop until you hit something. See, it made sense in terms of the theme. Actually, it's going to be immune to radiant damage because it's just going to reflect it, which is going to annoy my partner who plays a monk who deals radiant damage, but there we go. And thunder damage is vulnerable to... Oh, well, slashing it shouldn't be immune to. Delete. Slashing. Resistance. There we go. It made sense with the themes of the campaign that the players would get the tools they need to because they're kind of supposed to be quote unquote blessed by the gods, so they have the luck to find the items that they need to set them on their quest, but then once they have them, it's more about increasing their bond with the items and strengthening those items than finding more, which is something that they haven't really realized yet. Like, one of my players, the guy who plays the rogue, is very obsessed with loot. And I'm trying to get it through to him that any magic items they can find are going to be adventuring items than like weapons and more personal items. There's going to be easily accessible things like potions of healing or ropes of climbing, etc., etc. Oh yeah, they've got bags of holding. That's one of the first things they did because I accidentally gave them a large amount of money, and then realised they wouldn't be able to. There we go. Carry that much money. We'll say they're sort of like plate. Oh, whoops. There we go. Sorry, I completely forgot to swap back over. There we go. So because they are reflections, I'm treating them as wearing kind of plate at armor class 18, but they could maybe have a few fewer hit points because they're resistant to so much. Well, yeah, of course. What the economy of the world would make, obviously, is going to be more prevalent than anything else. And going forwards with if we ever finish this campaign, the next campaign will have different items available because it'll be more steampunky. In terms of like end of industrial era, golden age, Victorian technology with a bit of magic thrown in. They have the same. Their stat blocks got gone screwy as well. Weird. That's fine. So I'm going to set these all to 10. Because, and also remove Arcana, Nature, and Persuasion. That one needs updating. Where is it? Deception. Yeah, so steampunk's really cool, and I agree. And it's going to be that because I could probably get rid of these. So what? Because they are not natural creatures, their minds are going to be particularly resistant to saving throws. The idea being that the course of this campaign, reality gets weakened enough that things from elsewhere can come through, and that has a knock-on impact with technology. So we get strange fusions of kind of organic tech and steampunk tech. Dancing with the cursor, sorry, for that campaign. 2 entries. You're just doubling you're doubling your workload. One would hope that you enjoy doing it. Add ability. Ability name. Reflect creator. Gain a +8 bonus to the primary attribute of the creature reflected, and a +4 bonus to the secondary. So I will just have a shorthand list of my player party's primary and secondary attributes, and then make a note of which reflection has which. So that'll be at a +4 modifier and a +2 modifier. There we go. Nice. I start so many projects that I very rarely finish. It's a bad habit, but it is what it is. Action, obviously, is going to be an attack. I just call it shard. And then it'll be melee range to weapon attack. Using dexterity. We'll set it to +5, I guess. Target on creature. (2d6), and then depending on which creature they're attacking, obviously that goes up. And it will be piercing damage. Where's piercing? Piercing. Reach 5 and range 30, 60 we'll use. Nope, too far. Gundams and mechs. As in the anime, or you found a Dragon Ball role-playing game, tabletop game, whatever? Cool. I mean, I made a Ruby role-playing game, so I can't really comment on things like that. More power to you. Yeah, having a low-ish. Obviously, full disclosure, I've never watched Dragon Ball Z, or Kai, or Super, or whatever. But I know that power levels are a thing. But having something that's quote unquote realistically achievable and not over the top. Oh, I know about Beast and Loose as well, though. So. Balance is important sometimes in gaming. I guess they could have a performance bonus as well. That's the wrong one. That's performance, you idiot. Gain +8 bonus to the primary attribute of the creature reflects +4 bonus to secondary, so it becomes 18 and 14. That's all that's about. Shard, melee or ranged weapon attack +5 to hit, reach 5 feet or range. Yep. I could add a reaction here. Shatter. When struck, deal 2d6 piercing damage to attacker. We'll do that as 1d6 because there's no saving throw. It's just gonna, they're just gonna use a reaction to deal automatic damage. Yeah, power creep sucks in pretty much any context. Let's check that. So armor class quite low, but they're resistant to most damage and immune to radiant damage. Hit points are at middling because of that. Speed is average. Average stat block because they're getting bonuses based on who creates them or who they are a reflection of. Add action. The Red War series, man, I grew up on that. It's incredible. R.I.P. Brian Jock. I guess it'd just be action. Mirror. Why am I not surprised in the slightest? Shadowrun, aka roll too many d6 at one go. Make a single attack from on the reflected characters, character sheet. Weapon, attack, or cast a single cantrip from the reflected character's character sheet. Cool. Again, I'm not surprised. You seem a very detail-oriented person, which is no bad thing. Where's the Tarask? It has an ability I might copy. Right, so I'm going to... That should be an action. Yeah. Add ability. Ability name. Reflective. When targeted by magic missile, a line spell, or a spell that requires a ranged attack roll. I don't need that bookmark in the book anymore. When targeted by magic missile, a line spell, or a spell which requires a ranged attack roll. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, Kenny. Like, obviously, a lot of games come about because of fans taking the existing content and changing it to making improvements based on their preferences. Roll a d6. Yeah, having that kind of progression based penalty to a racial ability makes sense. Roll a d6. Say on a 1 to 5, damage is halved. Again, going on the theme of reflection, but also if it's for Eldritch Blast, they're going to be vulnerable anyway. On a 1 to 5, I want these creatures to be hit in melee combat primarily. The damage is halved. On a 6, the reflection is unaffected and the effect is reflected back at the cast as though it originated from... The effect is reflected back at the caster as if the effect originated from the reflection and the caster. I know there's a typo with the target. Also did some stuff on TMNT. Really feel like they make. I mean, there is already a TMNT, I believe, D20 system. No, not D20. Might be BRP. I can't remember which. But yes, a lot of the tropes, archetypes in that franchise are easily classed. So now that they have this ability as well, might lower their hit points a little. And their armor class. put their armor class back up to where it was. No. Lower their armor class to middling value, I think. And these are supposed to be disposable minions. But with all the damage resistances and stuff they've got, any higher health, I believe they'd stick around for too long. And in terms of healing for Javik, at 45 they can give him a maximum of 22 hit points back, which is like a round of combat against the player against any of the player characters, which is roughly what a Cure Wounds does as well. Well, Mega Man is all class-based, really, if you think about it. You just Mega Man multi-classes every time he kills a boss. I think that's fine. I think I'm happy with this. So it's got a lowish hit point total, so it'll last a few rounds in combat. Its armor class is just average, but it's resistant to most of the types of damage the party puts out, apart from 2 of the Warlocks have Eldritch Blast, so it's vulnerable to that, but it does half the damage with a chance to reflect the blast back at the caster, which is cool. Because again, I want it to mix up the party meta, and usually it's just hold the line while the casters throw Eldritch Blast with everything. Yeah, exactly. Did I ever play? I have not played any Mega Man game, video or otherwise. That is incorrect. I tried Mega Man vs Street Fighter. It turns out I'm really bad at Mega Man games, based solely on my experience in that game. Oh, they also can't be frightened. Where is it? Is it here? Yes. They can't be frightened. Well, it's not... Well, NES games in general didn't hold their punches, but it's not really a style of game I've ever played particularly. So, Reflections of Power, they're Fey, underlined. Again, average armor class, so they can be hit quite easily. Low hit points because they've got resistance to most things. Can try and deceive people. High bonuses to their mental saving throws, just so I don't have to bother with disadvantage and stuff on spells. Reflect light because they're a reflective creature. They're essentially a mirror. Resistant to most kinds of damage. I guess they'd be immune to psychic damage, actually. Yeah. And then damage resistant psychic. And actually they'd also be immune to poison damage because it's sort of an object. Most objects are immune to psychic and poison damage. So that's that. Vulnerable to bludgeoning, thunder, and force damage, which again, the party have a combination of all 3 of these. Conditions, they don't really have minds, so those 2 don't apply. Standard passive perception. I don't have anyone in the party that deals psychic damage anyway, primarily, or at all, so it's not really worth it. I used to, and threw him up against constructs, and he could do nothing, and then I decided that going forward, if they had a immunity to psychic damage, then they'd be more confused, but it doesn't come up anymore. Well, yeah, that's pretty much the confusion spell. But as I say, it doesn't come up anymore because that player had to leave for real life reasons. And then the stat block is increased based on whom they're reflecting. Yeah, that makes sense. Really, that's what they're supposed to be doing with these guys. These things. We talked about magic missile. I don't know whether to make reflective a reaction or it just applies to every time. What I'll probably do is explain to the players I might change it halfway. I might change it based on how it goes at the table, actually. Yeah. BS creature type. OP, Mary Sue's. That's the one. These are not supposed to be Mary Sue's. But their damage output isn't terribly great. And their ability to actually hit any of the player characters isn't terribly high. So I think it's mostly balanced out. And again, like I always explain to my players when I'm doing homebrew stuff that it might change during the battle. And obviously when I put it up on my website, I will include my notes. On how the encounter went and update these creatures accordingly. It's only hard and they do psychic, just give it to them. Maybe. I mean, it's kind of because I'm treating these as like almost constructs, and most constructs are most objects in the game are immune to. I think most constructs actually. Just turn to a random one. Flying Sword, immune to poison and psychic. Rugged Smothering, poison and psychic. Animated Armor, poison and psychic. Yeah, I hate not being able to playtest these things, but most constructs are immune to poison and psychic damage anyway. So I'll probably leave it as is, and as I say, it doesn't come up. It won't. Pretty certain it won't come up in terms of psychic damage anyway. But I will explain that it's subject to change, and as I said when I pushed up on my website, that's how we roll dice.wordpress.com. I will amend it if any changes need making based on experience at the table. So reflective is a flavor thing. Yeah, exactly. I try to do things based on precedent in the book and based on kind of flavor. Yeah. Also, if I'm adding to a homebrew creature, and it makes sense that a drawback would be there as well because of the way I'm breaking the game, quote unquote. Totally do something like that, or have that as an explanation in world. The reflective thing, so anyone who's curious, this is from the Tarask. It's another damage way of resisting damage. Oh yeah, I did that when they faced the boss before last, where I realised that the damage output on the creature was a bit too high, but it had 3 attacks, so I allowed the players to target each limb independently and reduce its attacks accordingly. So for anyone who is just here for kind of like more workshopping purposes, an important skill, obviously this is primarily D&D based, but in most role-playing games, when you're actually running a combat encounter is to kind of, it's not necessarily fudge the numbers, but allow the numbers to be changed through player action, through consequences of character of kind of NPC action, etc., or just straight up altering health values. I do it quite a lot, especially where an encounter is supposed to have weight to it, but it's going too quickly, or it's taking too long. It's something that it'll come with time primarily and practice, but it's a good skill to be able to do. The 2 actions, one just so it has a basic attack if for whatever reason the creature is used without being a reflected creature, and then it can make an attack based on the reflected character's character sheet. I'm kind of the other way, despite the fact obviously I stream these sessions in response to Kenny's comment, which hopefully you can read well enough on screen. I know white on grey on white's not great. I tend to prep light. When it's stat blocks and stuff, it takes a long time to do anyway. So that's a large part of my prep time. And dungeons and things that I want to have I like to have, just like, as you saw, kind of 1 sentence descriptions of puzzles and things. But I do put a lot of thought into consequences of if they fail. And with Kenny's example, obviously they need to move fast. So this whole encounter would be vastly different if they'd gone straight for him. These reflections wouldn't exist. The dungeon wouldn't exist, but they'd have to sneak into a fortified estate, and there'd be guards roaming and things like that. But I think it's worked out better this way. Yeah, in fact, my players have a Facebook chat where they discuss plans, and they're currently talking about whether or not they should take a long rest before infiltrating the estate. So that'll be fun. I'm going to save this. I realize I haven't saved it yet. Save. Check that hasn't messed anything up. Save it as a PNG. I guess I'll just drop it on my desktop for now. That's not how you spell reflection, you idiot. Yes, of course. Like I said, if they'd gone there straight away, none of this would happen. There'd be no dungeon. There'd be no reflections of power to screw with them. There would just be guards, because that's all the guy had at the time. But now he's had time to set his spells and his lairs in action. And it has also been a kind of a balancing act between them gathering resources and stuff. But I gave them, in world, their boss gave them the option to go straight for him or to wait and gather resources, and they chose to wait. So there we go. But that's all I wanted to do today, really. So the summary is I just made 2 stat blocks, and I'll put them up on my website afterwards. I'm going to end the YouTube recording now. So YouTube, if you want to see more stuff like this, come to twitch.tv/ComradeBubbles. I'm live every Monday where I do some sort of tabletop role-playing stuff. And hit the follow button to be told when I go live. And also follow me on Twitter at ComradeBubbles, because that's my post when I'm going live as well. And I hope you enjoyed. I've got to get the right button to stop the recording.